It's good to see people here, a lot of new faces. Nice to meet our new staff members. Welcome to our district. It's a wonderful place to be, so I'm sure you'll find it warm and welcoming. We're going to move on now to public participation portion of the meeting. Dr. Dearman will begin with the superintendent's report. Dr. Dearman.
Thank you. First item, on Monday, we will be hosting the Peoria County Safety Day meeting here at Dunlap High School. That's for all the Peoria County sheriffs and all first responders and also all Peoria County school districts. So we'll have a rather large crowd here. Volunteered to host that in conjunction with Sheriff Watkins, who is a Dunlap resident and has students within our district. But it's also good for the district in that we'll have all those people in our buildings and we'll have familiarity with our buildings, heaven forbid, if we ever need them in an emergency. So it's a good thing for us. At that meeting, I'll be demonstrating our Informacast app that we have now put online. Very quick overview of that. We went live today with the door sensors. As we all know, the unfortunate incident in Uvalde, Texas. So a perpetrator came in through a door that was open. What we have is any door at any building within our district, exterior door, has a sensor on it. And when that door is opened, a notification is sent out to cell phone, email, desktop computer, and desk phone within the district. And we started that live today at all buildings. And we are fine-tuning some of those notifications because poor Katie's phone's been blowing up today, as has mine. But the good thing is it's working. And one thing that I did do today is I had the company here. We were just making sure everything was as we wanted it for Monday. We are in the auditorium because that's where we're going to host the meeting. There's a door too over there that opens actually right out into the parking lot. That door has no delay on it. Like the front doors have a 1 minute delay, so those doors can be open all the time. But if they're open for more than a minute, then Katie and her admin team are going to get a notification. That door should never be open at any time without knowledge. I kicked that door open. As soon as it opened, my phone blew up. Door 2 is open, and then I closed it immediately. Door 2 closed. That's what we want, and we'll have that ability throughout all of our buildings. And then we're going to have that application pushed out to our teaching staff so that they have access to some emergency notifications that we will be going over at our opening institute on the 15th. So very excited about that. Some of the safety issue things that we've had in place but kind of been on hold because of COVID. With COVID, we've been told, we're told, open doors for ventilation. We want kids taking mask breaks, going in and out, those types of things. So it wouldn't have made sense to have a lot of notifications on doors because they were open constantly. But we're in a different situation now, so we will be moving forward. August 17th is the first full day of attendance for students. And then we've had one FOIA request since our June meeting, and Mr. McKenzie has fulfilled that request. So thank you, Mr. McKenzie. And we did, as Dr. Humbles stated, introduce many of our new people, so welcome, and thank you for coming tonight. And that is all I have, Dr. Humbles. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dearman. At this time, we'll move on to the public comment portion of our meeting. Is there anyone here that wishes to address the board? If so, please raise your hand. Seeing none, this concludes the public participation portion of the meeting. The board will now move on to the information discussion items. School activity account reports are included in the board packet. Are there any questions? Information regarding proposed board policy revisions is available in the board packet. Are there any questions?
I just have a question, Tammy.
Yes, ma'am.
And I believe Ann is on the line.
Yes.
She has went, Ann, can you hear me?
Yes.
You've went through each one of these, I'm sure, correct? Do you
and
have any questions on those? Or is anything to tell us?
I do. I told her I would take care of it
I'm
tonight.
sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, she and I both went through these. There were just some that really stood out to us, and we felt that some we had some questions on, and we could possibly get some answers before the next board meeting. But a few that stood out to us, the controversial issues policy 6:80, that it's stressed that information that's presented that is a controversial issue needs to be presented as informational and a balanced viewpoint rather than, you know, personal opinion or feelings about a certain issue, and not tolerant of profanity. And so I think those are ones that Dr. Dearman will be looking at and stressing with staff. There were a few others. We had questions about 6:330. It's all donations for awards and honors must have board prior approval, so he's going to look into that one as well. Also, there was a policy about evaluation or surveys given by a third party. Parents will have the right to inspect those evaluations or surveys upon request, and Dr. Dearman wasn't sure that we had any of those by a third party, but he's also going to look into that, as well as the policy regarding solicitations from staff must be approved by superintendent first. So those were the ones that stood out to us as perhaps needing more information, but if you had any questions or comments about any of those, we'd be happy to discuss those as well. Anybody else have any questions regarding those policies? Okay. Information regarding the 2021-22 balance scorecard is included in the board packet. Are there any questions? Next, Mrs. Caslett will present information regarding the Dunlap High School reset. Mrs. Caslett.
Thank you. Let me get this up here. Okay, so after I was approved in February, you know, obviously Dr. Adrian and I had a lot of time to talk about some changes and some different things, you know, that we would want to implement for this school year. And so we kept talking about basically resetting, because a lot of our procedures that we had done in the past, for whatever reason, you know, for the last couple of years, we, you know, had to put on hold or weren't able to do. And then obviously he brought the safety plan to you, which was a big part of it as well. So basically I just kind of put together an action plan, so stop me if you have any questions along the way. The additional assistant principal at Dunlap High School, you know, is going to be huge as far as taking that caseload of students down. So as you can see, it goes from 700 to 467. That leaves a lot of more time for parent contact, for student conferences. You know, a lot of times those assistant principals might be seeing some of the same students over and over again. So, you know, as far as them having conversations with them, then being able to refer them either to our counselors or to our wellness counselors, it just gives them, you know, it just gives us another body basically for support for our students. It's also an additional person for supervision. So in the hallways, before school, in between classes, in the lunchroom, at the bus stop. So a lot of those areas where, you know, we might have issues or we might have discipline infractions, it's just another adult there. We have the 3 additional hall monitors at Dunlap High School. Mrs. Roberts, Mr. Mize, and Mrs. Feltz have been, and myself have been chatting throughout the last few weeks about what our game plan is with these people. Obviously, the supervision in the hallway, especially during classes, is going to be increased by a lot. And we know that, you know, those are the times where, you know, the students, you know, where we had some incidents where maybe they were texting each other in meeting places in the hallways or meeting in their restrooms and things like that. Well, with these, you know, 3 adults in the hallway at all times, they're going to be able to monitor that. So I know Mrs. Feltz has she's been working on a form so that they can basically document, if they see Tom Feldman in the hallway, every single, during every single class, hey, what are you doing? What's your pass from? You were just out here last time, or, if somebody goes into the restroom and then, they see 5 other kids come to that same restroom, okay, let's hold on here, we've already got somebody in there, and they're gonna be able to monitor those things because they're gonna be in the hallway. It's also gonna be a good way for us to collect data as far as, okay, where are we seeing that these, the students are going in between classes, is there a spot where we're seeing that the kids are maybe where they're not supposed to be at that time. So as far as monitoring in the hallway, these 3 adults are just gonna be huge because we just haven't had that in the past, We've had Deputy Ryle, who walks the hallways, but I mean, I've had multiple people come in here, multiple new students, and the one thing that they talk about is how huge this school is, and it is, there's a lot, there's a lot of space. So, and just the ability to kind of, again, put them in these areas where maybe we've seen where we've had some incidents occur in the past. So they're gonna be able to speak to each other, so if there's a problem, and to the administration, via walkie-talkie. So if there's an incident, if they need help, they'll be able to get with people in the office with Officer Ryle right away so that they can come and get them. They won't have to go and, find a phone and things like that. We'll be able to check passes in the hallway, and, if we need to do hall sweeps, if we get to that point where we're, have a lot of people in the hall, obviously, again, these are just gonna be extra people, in there. So like I said, those 3 have done a great job and have been working, really hard just on a lot of different ideas of the best ways, to use these people efficiently. Then we obviously have the new residency and truancy officer, that can follow up on truancy issues with us. More cameras, and then the upgrade of cameras that we have coming to try and make it so that there aren't as many blind spots or spots where we can't see on the cameras in the building. I've spoken with Officer Ryle. If we do have issues where our students have done something that in school that's unlawful, right, and working with those appropriate entities to determine, if there does need to be a citation given out, if it would be like, a possible drug situation or something like that. We're going to be going back to a previous schedule that allows for a common homeroom time. So that was something that we couldn't do this year because of the social distancing that we had to have for lunches. So what we can do for the common homeroom time is it helps us with our SEL homerooms. So we can identify those students who might need a little bit more time spent on social emotional, and we can have homerooms that are dedicated to that. So for maybe some different interventions. It also helps us so that we can re-implement the freshman advisory program. We had that for years. Pre-COVID, and basically what that is kind of like an introduction for the freshmen. I mean, I always say you don't know what you don't know, and when the freshmen come in, they don't know a lot, really. So it allows us to get our upperclassmen in with the freshmen, basically to kind of let them know the procedures and kind of the way that things work in the high school. Also, the in-school suspension supervisor, that's going to be something that's going to be really helpful here at the high school. We're going to be able to have consistency with our in-school suspension room. They'll have, the daily expectations, and just the processes, obviously, with having one person, are just going to be a lot more consistent.
Can I ask something on that?
Yeah.
I saw that wage was higher than just a regular hall monitor. Are they a special order person, or why a higher wage on that?
Probably because they're contained in like one room, so anybody who receives like an in-school, so I'm assuming, it's probably because sometimes there could be some discipline issues, or you might have to call the office for, some support, maybe if one of those students is.
They don't have any more training or background or anything, it's just.
Correct, yes, yeah, correct. Mm-hmm. The re-implementation of random drug testing. So obviously that was something that we couldn't do during COVID, because when we first came back, we had 300 kids that were remote at home. So we really struggled with how can we do that? Because then it can't be random. I mean, those kids are basically, wouldn't really even be in the pool. And then obviously social distancing and, all of that. So we've already worked with psychomedics who've done our drug testing in the past to kind of get it restarted. I've spoken with Mr. Nichols, who will oversee that. And so the way we do that, just as a refresher, is we send them all of our student IDs. They pick totally random from that list. They send them back to us. Then we look them up, and then we will call down for those kids. We do the hair testing, and anybody who's in a sport activity or has a parking pass can be subject to that. So, if we were to have somebody test positive for an illegal substance for an athlete, it's like an athletic code. So it would just go straight to the third of the season. Or if somebody has a parking pass, then there's a suspension of their parking pass. We do that every single month.
If someone's not driving or not involved in an activity, they're out of the pool.
They're out of the pool.
Okay, thank you.
And then one of the big things, that we feel like we saw a lot last year was tardies and just multiple student absences. So we're going to send out information because obviously we really weren't able to follow our attendance policies because we were sending kids home for 2 weeks at a time. So just as a reminder to our students and to our parents about our 7 excuse policies, what happens past that 7, and basically just saying, hey, we need our students in class. We need them here. I feel like it's no fault of our own, but I think some people developed maybe some apathy about being in school because we did, hey, we're sending you home for 2 weeks, you can do remote. And so, like I said, I felt like last year we probably saw more instances of that, of the tardies and then students just kind of skipping classes than we had seen in the past. So basically just sending out something to the family saying, hey, let's help each other here, we need our students in school. That's all I got. What questions do you have?
I got a couple.
Yeah.
Okay. For the cameras, when will those, or maybe they are, be fully installed?
They are not installed yet. I know Dr. Adrian, I spoke with him last week, and he is working with, I can't remember the gentleman's name, Victor from Sentinel, is that right?
Victor is Seiko.
Oh, okay. But he was working with them to get them in here. I think he said they had a lot of installs going on, but I know he's been in contact with them.
I was told they would be in by the start of school.
That's what I was hoping. Okay. And another question here as we look through this. Are the consequences going to be clearly defined for example, if you have a random drug test that comes back positive, there's going to be specific consequences defined, right, for the athletic code. Are we going to have those same defined for different types of offenses? I'm just asking that question.
Sure. Like, you mean like the third of the season or whatever?
I'm not talking athletic code.
Okay.
So let's say something happens in the hallway and there's a fight. Are the consequences, so the students understand, I just want to make sure we start the school year off
Sure.
right? And so all the students understand that if this is a consequence for this action,
Sure.
for this behavior.
Yes, and so that's one of the things that so again, the assistant principals and myself, when we start the school year, we will sit every class down in the auditorium, like individually. And those are the types of things that we go over. It's basically like in the handbook. So like, if this happens, here's the first offense, here's the second offense, here's clearly defined how it's in there. Because again, I think we haven't been able to really, we've basically just had to trust that people are reading the handbooks right on their own when they're clicking, that they read it. So sitting them down and saying, hey, these are our expectations, these are the consequences, and this is what happened.
Perfect.
Yes,
Okay.
because I think everybody needs a reminder of that.
Then too, I know we discussed, and Mr. Wisdom asked me to bring this up too. We discussed specific actions that have happened or things that have happened that maybe there wasn't a precedent for.
Sure.
Perhaps a good practice when an assistant principal is handling such a thing and it's a very questionable behavior, that perhaps before determining the consequence for that behavior, if it's a really, bad infraction that could possibly be very consequential, perhaps that could be, something that would be run by the superintendent or the principal.
Sure.
Because sometimes, an assistant principal, they have so much to do.
Absolutely.
And I think we've seen incidences where perhaps a decision was made that probably could have been something that would have been dealt with more severely. And if we could have a practice where they could check with Dr. Dearman in such cases, or you, or
Sure.
the principal that's here, I think that would really be helpful.
Yeah, and we've talked about that too, because obviously, like, we've got a whole new office,
Right,
and so we've talked a lot about, like, we've already sat down a lot together just to speak about different things or to get other ideas and to bring those types of things together, because we want to be consistent, right? And then,
Yes.
I agree, unfortunately, sometimes there are things that come up that maybe aren't laid out exactly.
right.
And so, yes, we've talked about that too, about, coming together and having those conversations as a team as well.
I think the board's message to our school community by hiring these extra people is that we do not want to tolerate behavior that is unsafe to others. And so I'm hoping to be very positive and hopeful that this year we'll start off on a good note, and it's always best to do that at the beginning of the year so everyone knows the ground rules, that certain types of behavior will not be tolerated. We want this to be a safe place for all of our students and teachers and staff. So I'm really excited and hopeful that we'll get there.
Absolutely, I agree, and that's why I think sending, and I've been very careful, because you don't want to bombard everybody with emails, right?
Sure.
And I've learned you try and keep them as short and sweet as you can while getting to the point. But like I said, I think a lot of us do need some of these reminders, because they're just things that, we have just kind of been out of our control as far as like the attendance and things like that. Like, hey, this is what it says, and like I said, we'll spend probably more time with the class in the class meetings than we have in the past, just because we really haven't been able to bring all those kids together because of COVID in one setting, and so I think we probably need to go over a few more things than we have in past years. So.
And in Katie's defense, she's very good at communicating. Historically, when she was athletic director, a contentious issue would come up, she would let me know. But also this reset, other principals call it reboot. There's a lot of different, that is not just a high school thing, that is a district-wide thing. I'll be sending out a video similar to like what I did in COVID, kind of reiterating what the theme is going to be this year about a reboot, reset. Let's get back to our usual practices and the things that put us to where we're at.
Anyone else have any other questions?
No, I was just gonna mention, I
do about, I know it says about
Sorry, Tom.
the drug
No, no,
testing
let her
and
go.
that you'd be like subject to the athletic code. So if you're not an athlete, let's say you're in music or theater, are people in those kind of activities, are they gonna be subject to like losing a third of their participation? I guess
They're saying yes.
it's a punishment beyond just people in sports, is my question.
You want to address
Yes, can you hear me, Ann?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. So with the drug testing, it covers everybody. Like I said, it covers all sports, all activities, everybody with a parking pass. So, we've had situations before where maybe we've had someone who has just been a participant in a club, and, they haven't been able to participate in that club for, a third of the school year, because clubs, go throughout the whole school year. So that's correct. That will extend beyond sports.
All right, good.
They do go to practices, just not games, is that how I understand it?
That's correct. If you're coded, you can practice, but you don't go to
So they're
games.
still participating.
Yes. Yeah, they just sit,
You know
they
what?
can't dress.
I have another question. Do you know what the budget is for the drug testing?
I believe it's 10,000.
She thinks right now it's 10,000, but I'm sure we'll have to see if it's gone up like many things.
It has not, actually.
Everything, okay.
Well, you have an agreement, so.
We do, yes, and I have spoken with psychomedics to see, because I actually did a comparison.
Okay.
Because I checked to see like a local company, and it was substantially more, and psychomedics actually had not increased.
Okay, she went with a company that did not increase. Now, I think Mr. Feldman has a question.
Well, I was just gonna say, I know that, Abby, at the top, you welcomed all the new folks, and they did a trip around the horn here, but Dr. Dearman, are you planning on, for the record, doing some more formal introductions? Or are you holding till the next meeting, or just to welcome some of the new people that are even here today, or is that for next meeting?
We could do that next meeting. I did not plan on doing that this evening.
Okay.
Any other questions regarding what Mrs. Caslett presented? Okay, well, thank you for the information. I'm sure if anyone else has any questions, they can just
Let me know.
give you a call. Thank you very much. This concludes the information discussion items segment of the meeting. The board will now move on to the consent agenda. Are there any questions or discussions regarding the items in the consent agenda? May I please have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Feldman. Sorry. Oh, okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wagonball. Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Feldman,
Aye.
Henry,
Henry?
Aye.
Holzhauser. Aye. Humbles,
Aye.
Wagenbach.
Aye.
Motion carried. The board will now move on to action items. The bill list, treasurer's report, district investment report, bank statements are included in the board packet. May I have a motion to approve payment of the bills?
I move to approve payment of the bills in the amount of $4,514,318.49 as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Holzhauser. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Feldman. Any more discussion? Roll call vote.
Henry,
Henry?
Aye.
Holzhauser,
Aye.
Humbles,
Aye.
Wagenbach,
Aye.
Feldman.
Aye.
Motion carried. Information regarding resolutions to intervene in the property tax appeal is included in the board packet. May I have a motion to approve the resolutions?
I have a question. Is this common to have these every month, Mike? Pretty much every month?
We have a lot of property.
It's more than normal, but it's just like the economy.
Alright. I'll move to approve resolutions number 1-2022, 2-2022, 3-2022, 4-22, and 5-2022 to authorize the intervention in property tax appeal as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Feldman. Any more discussion? Roll call vote.
Holzhauser. Aye. Humbles,
Aye.
Wagenbach,
Aye.
Feldman,
Aye.
Henry.
Henry?
Aye.
Motion carried. Information regarding the risk management plan is included in the board packet. May I have a motion to approve the risk management plan?
I got another question on this one too. On the toward expense salaries and benefits, is that comparable to last year, those percentages? You know,
They're the same, the only thing I've done is change some of the titles, like, we used to have assistant superintendent of whatever, and then, so I changed it to chief financial officer. So all the percentages are exactly the same, all we did was change titles.
I'll move to approve the risk management plan as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Wagonball. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Holzhauser. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Humbles,
Aye.
Wagenbach,
Aye.
Feldman,
Aye.
Henry,
Aye.
Holzhauser.
Aye.
Motion carried. Information regarding the 2022-23 organizational chart is included in the board packet. May I please have a motion to approve the organizational chart?
I move to approve the 2022-23 organizational chart as presented.
Thank you, Mrs. Holzhauser. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wagenbach. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carried. Information regarding the 2023 band trip to Walt Disney World is included in the board packet. In the packet, I believe Mrs. Henry said that there was not an attachment. It said there's an attachment.
Yeah, there is one. I missed it at first. There is the
Okay.
attachment.
All right. May I have a motion to approve the trip? I'll make a motion to approve the band trip for 2023 to Walt Disney World as presented. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Holzhauser. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Wagenbach,
Aye.
Feldman,
Aye.
Henry,
Aye.
Holzhauser,
Aye.
Humbles.
Aye. Information regarding the 2022-23 district copy service agreement was included in the board packet. May I have a motion to approve the agreement?
I'll move to approve the 22-23 district copier service agreement as presented.
Very nice. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Feldman. Thank you, Mr. Wagenball. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Feldman.
Aye.
Henry.
Aye.
Olshauser.
Aye.
Humbles.
Aye.
Wagonbach.
Aye.
Motion carried. Information regarding the UCS upgrade proposal is included in the board packet. May I please have a motion to approve the proposal?
I move to approve the UCS upgrade proposal as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Holzhauser. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Feldman.
I forgot what that was. What is it? Remind me.
Just vote on it.
That's the blade servers. It's part of our tech upgrade. We're
Oh, okay, okay.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Henry.
Aye.
Olshauser.
Aye.
Humbles.
Aye.
Wagonbach.
Aye.
Feldman.
Motion carried. Information regarding the semi-annual review of closed session minutes is included in the board packet. May I please have a motion to approve the semi-annual review of closed session minutes?
I move to approve the semi-annual review of closed session minutes as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Wagenbaugh. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Feldman. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Olshauser.
Aye.
Humbles.
Aye.
Wagonbach.
Aye.
Feldman.
Aye.
Henry.
Aye.
Motion carried. Information regarding the administrator contract for the Dunlap Middle School Assistant Principal is included in the board packet. May I please have a motion to approve the contract?
I'll move to approve
Thank you,
the contract for the Dunlap Middle School Assistant Principal as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Feldman. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you, Mr. Wagenbaugh. Any discussion?
There's just not enough of us up here,
I
Abby. that
know.
We're having to be so participative that
I'm trying to be so
I'm
quick
having to
to.
jump in and make a motion and second, and I'm
It's so much work for
trying
you,
to stay
Tom.
engaged
I'm so
here.
sorry.
I
Roll call
apologize,
vote,
okay.
please.
Humbles.
Aye.
Wagonbach.
Aye.
Feldman.
Aye.
Henry.
Aye.
Olshauser.
Aye.
Motion carried. May I please?
Wait for Ann on the next one.
May I please have a motion to adjourn the closed session, Mrs. Henry?
I motion to adjourn the closed session.
Thank you so much.
Wait, you gotta read A
You gotta
through
read,
G.
would you like me to finish reading that for you?
Yes, please.
For the following purposes as stated in the Open Meetings Act, appointment, employment, compensation, performance of specific employees, student disciplinary cases, discussion of minutes and meetings lawfully closed, collective negotiation matters, security procedures, the purchase of lease and real property, and litigation. May I have a second?
Second.
You already
Second.
motioned.
I'll
Second.
second.
Got it.
Thank you, Mrs. Holzhauser. Any more discussion? Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carried. Time is 6:35 PM. I believe that's quite a record. Thank you, Mrs. Henry. If you'd like to call back to closed session, you can call my telephone.
Okay.
Be well.